Here we are with the quietest Toyoverse game release I've ever seen, Zenless Zone Zero. We've got the usual good, the bad, the drama, and the haters. But instead of the usual topics, I'll be critiquing the game on something very specific. The accessibility side of things, based on my own experience and knowledge as an XQA engineer. So first, let me introduce myself to those who don't know me. Hi, I'm Ririna, a story addict, an anime enthusiast, a gaming noob, and an XQA engineer turned content creator. And in this series, I'll be going on a journey to uncover the best gacha games for accessibility. Maybe some other games too. Now, I won't bore you with the restrictions I had and how I tested this game, but if you're curious about any of that, then go read the video description below. And so, without wasting any more of your time, I'll give you the ratings first. And this will be based on the American education system grading system. So A is highest, F is lowest. So A, B, C, D, and then F. Zenless Zone Zero got the following ratings. Mobility, D. Cognitive, D. Vision, C. Hearing, B. Speech is going to be excluded since it's not used for this game. And then general, D. So the overall accessibility rating is D. And the percentages are calculated based on the number of passes and fails for test cases overall for each category, while the overall accessibility rating is calculated by grabbing the average from all those actual percentages of each category. And based on the overall rating, this tells me that while it's not the most accessible game out there, it's not the worst either. This is actually around what I expected from a gacha game, to be honest, so I'm not surprised to see this rating for accessibility. But does it mean that it's the worst game out of all? No, because the story, the characters, and the combat could be some of the best out there to someone due to preference differences. But it does let me know one thing. I can't expect every viewer that's watching this video and every person in this world to be able to play this game comfortably. And keyword here is comfortably, because everyone can technically play it, it's just that it won't always be comfortable. That's pretty much the difference there. So let's now get to the concerns and recommendations that I have for the dev team about this game after testing its accessibility. The first one is that button mashing and QTEs or QuickTime events are unavoidable in this game. While they do have timing forgiveness in their combat, much more than Honkai Impact 3rd, whether that's enough for someone or not is a different story. And because of this, I'm personally frustrated that they couldn't implement a setting or a toggle to simplify, skip, or even disable the button mashing and QTEs that's required in the combat of this game. Now, you can argue that the combat is the whole point of the game, but with how much they put emphasis on the story and the world lore in their previous games, you would think that they would finally provide the option for those who have physical or cognitive troubles. And while this type of setting won't be used by someone who rarely has health issues, it can be very useful to those who care about the story and world lore but just can't play because of these restrictions. And then speaking of combat, there are currently only 2 difficulty level choices, casual mode and challenge mode in this game. But instead of only having 2 choices, it would have been better if they allowed for more difficulty level customization for as many existing variables in this game, or even have more presets and groupings that fulfill a more unique gameplay for people to some degree. Or even a mix of both, with the final option being total customization. This way, the people who think the challenge mode is easy can make the game harder for themselves, while others can make casual mode a little harder, but not as hard as challenge mode if that's what they prefer. Would you want that kind of addition to the combat and gameplay as a whole? I feel like that would have made testing a lot more interesting too, though, and maybe even as a regular player, that would have been a lot more intriguing to go through, especially if combat is supposed to be the focus of the game, instead of the story and the world lore. But of course, that's not the only thing that they can implement to make people's lives easier or interesting. For example, they could have allowed users to rearrange the main menu items and resize more things such as text and buttons instead of only the combat buttons. So in those cases, wouldn't you agree that being able to rearrange the main menu items would literally be a game changer? For me, I personally dislike the fact that more and options was on the very left side of the screen. If I could place it on the far right, that would have been more comfortable for me. But another concern I had was the fact that when we accept a commission, we can't fast teleport directly to the HDD system to start the commission. As in, we can't teleport and stand right in front of it. Instead, we need to literally go to it by walking or running. And honestly, this is something I disliked from their other games as well. The fact that it takes multiple steps just to start a mission is quite inconvenient and quite frankly, is time inefficient. Even if it's considered not that bad by some people. They could do better. So being able to fast teleport directly to the HDD system or be able to start the HDD system anywhere on the open world map without having to go directly to the video rental store would have been a game changer from their other games. Wouldn't you agree? Or do you actually prefer that they make you go to the HDD system to start a mission? But one of the biggest things that bothered me about this game is their buttons. Not the actual functionality of the buttons because those are fine, but the buttons icons. They're not intuitive at all, unless you're an experienced Hoyoverse gamer. Same for their main menu icons. Because right now, they feel more like an aesthetic design choice rather than a good UX and practicality choice. But instead of asking them to remove those icons, they could have an option to replace them with accessibility-friendly icons instead that are a bit more straightforward. That way it's easier for people to remember what each button does. But what do you think? Do you agree that they could improve the UX UI for their main menu and combat? Or do you think that it's good the way it is now? But regardless of whether Hoyoverse sees this feedback or not, I do hope that most of the concerns and recommendations I shared here are seen as potential ways that the game could improve for its accessibility in the future. And this isn't a video where I'm telling you don't have to play the game. I'm just saying that I do hope that they continue to improve it in the future so that more and more people can play their games that are loved by a lot of people. But of course, this game wouldn't be complete if I didn't list out the most important accessibility features in this game that I found to be the most helpful. So here we go at top speed. Number 1. There's 2 gameplay difficulty levels available. You can change this anytime in the options during the commission. There's an accelerate playback mode to make everything go faster for the puzzles. For mobile in the options under the other category, you can switch between press and hold for running in the city. There are no timers for puzzles, so you don't have to worry about spending time doing other things when you are playing this game. There's also no huge penalties for going the wrong way for puzzles. You can always backtrack. You can also always pause the exploration and return to the main menu and city if you like. You can also access the tutorials for everything and the options once you click into the menu during a main commission and combat gameplay session. This pauses the game too, so you don't have to worry about getting killed while you're trying to fix your settings. There's no timer for text prompts. There's a skip button for non-immersive storytelling mode. You can use the video archive to re-experience all the past cutscenes, the immersive storytelling scenes, and the combat rounds at its entirety that you completed before. This excludes all non-immersive storytelling scenes though. But during the actual commission, you can't replay the cutscene after it's done. At that point, you'll need to finish the commission and then check everything out later in the video archive or on their official YouTube channel. You can dodge and parry with no vision. The distinct sounds the enemies make when they're about to attack you is easy to hear. And the character auto moves towards the enemy on their own when you're button mashing the attack button. And there's a non-immersive storytelling mode that lets you see a script of what was said in the dialogue, including the audio during the scene in one of the menu options. Immersive does not let you do this though. You can access the instructions in the proxy handbook, the menu options during combat and puzzles, and the workbench. You can also resize the combat control buttons in the options, and there's no penalty from losing in combat. There's a 30 seconds timer that's seen with 3 options after you lose. There's retreat, restart, or analyze. Retreat is quitting, restarting is doing the same combat round again with the team in full health, and analyze is checking the rating for each of your agents and recommendations on how to improve your team. Most locations have distinct noise that differentiate from the rest when you turn off the music and only listen to the ambient sounds for orientation points when walking around the city. And that's without your vision. How was that for fast? And now let me quickly talk about my first impressions of the story. And if you're not interested in that, then you can skip to the last section. Now, I honestly did not find the story to be that bad so far. Surprisingly, the pacing wasn't as bad as their other games. Personally, I found their other games to be a bit too slow in the beginning, even if the story picks up later, and this is for every arc in their games. But here, the pacing was great from the start, which I think is a good sign. I actually didn't get very far in the story due to testing the game, but the dialogue never felt awkward between the characters, and I also like the fact that the siblings were both very involved in the story together. And they have quite the personality so far too. They're not passive, and they're not talking for each other. They're both very talkative and making decisions on their own instead of being influenced by others or being forced into doing things for the sake of something random. Not to mention, The immersive storytelling mode made the story so riveting and charming that the cutscenes kind of felt a little bland sometimes. Or rather than bland, I just felt like it didn't require cutscenes to enjoy the story and its most intense moments, or at least I didn't really need it to enjoy it. In fact, I actually would have been okay if the game had only one animated cutscene per arc, like what they did for Genshin in the past. Plus, the voice acting just made everything 10 times better when going through the immersive storytelling mode, so that was a definite plus. And that was for English, Chinese, and Japanese, and I'm sure Korean's the same too. And overall, I think Zenless Zone Zero has an enjoyable, engaging, and refreshing way of telling its story, and I think it would be a very good game to try out if you're tired of the typical visual novel style of storytelling that seems to be used a lot in gacha games. And personally, I can't think of any minuses about the story at the top of my head, so I'll have to depend on all of you to let me know what flaws it has, or at least let us know about what strengths it has or how different it is compared to their other games. So in conclusion, who can I comfortably recommend this game to? Well, those who have 0 to minimal issues with their control, motor, and mobility skills, those who have 0 to minimal issues with their memory, processing information, and cognitive skills, those who have 0 to moderate issues with their vision, those who have 0 to a lot of issues, but still not to the degree of a disability with their hearing, and that's about it. So, let me know how you feel about the game so far, what you like about it and what you dislike. Or if you want more of these kinds of game critique and review videos from me, then let me know if you like this current format or if there's anything you want me to talk more about or change next time. And if you want me to evaluate another game, what do you want me to cover? Let me know down below. Hopefully it's a gacha game though, because that's what I like the most. But with that, I will officially end it here. Thank you for watching, so until the next one then, bye!